So for people that may not know, you have been like, you're in the radio Hall of Fame. You are just the most epic, like I consider the absolute GOAT in the rap industry. You've interviewed everyone from TuPac. Jay-Z calls you a pioneer. You just had a panel interview with Michelle Obama. Like, insane career.
Yeah.
And when I look at why, it's because you're a freaking badass. But there are moments in your career, there's moments in your life where other women, myself included, have felt insecure, have had imposter syndrome moments, have felt weak.
Of course, all of us.
But the fact that you keep stepping up, the fact that you don't let that stop you.
But what's our choice? What is the other choice?
To back off? To actually
fold up,
to
go
fold
away.
up.
I'm not, if I was to sit across from you and say I've never done that in my life, that's a lie. We always do. Sometimes fear gets the best of us. Sometimes you'll back out of something because you think nerves, or you maybe not deliver at full capacity because you're in your own head. But then you self-correct, you course correct, you go. Everything is always like a learning process.
When we talk about how we get back up, it's often in how do we as our own ability. But when someone else is trying to hold you down, when someone else is either taking jabs at you, when someone else is talking behind your back, especially as women, it's freaking hard to get out of your own way, to get out of your own emotions. So how do you find the courage to fight for yourself?
There are times, whether it's a person or a situation or opportunity, there's going to be times where people fuck with you. It's just part of life. And there are times you have to fight back. And there are times where you have to maybe not fold, but bend a little to kind of find common ground with somebody. That's another way to do it. But there were other moments where people doubt you, or your career's in trouble, your life's in trouble, you're in a bad relationship, you're health-wise. I've been in periods where my health wasn't good. You go through all types of stuff in your life where you have to pick yourself back up. But I don't know, there's this thing that I got in my head early, and I don't know where it came from, if I saw it or read it or somewhere, but it was like, whenever I'm like in a dark, those moments where you're like, everything's terrible, this is not working out, I quickly remind myself that whatever this is, it's just a moment, because you haven't figured out how to get out of it yet, but you will. So reminding yourself of that in your down moment, whatever the down moment is, reminding yourself that it's only this moment because you haven't figured it out. This is not where you live. This is not where you stay. This is not a state that you get comfortable in. This is just a moment, and I don't know, something about reminding myself that everything is temporary helps you to have resilience, helps you to be like, okay, this sucks, I'll ride it out because I know I just haven't figured out how to get out. So whatever the thing is that holds you down or is slowing you down, or I don't know, that little thing where you could just tell yourself like, this sucks, I don't know how to get out yet, but I know I'll figure it out. I know it's coming. It's not a small thing. And so somewhere young in my life, I learned to do that, so that even when I was being attacked by someone, or whatever was going on, or I was depressed about something or sad about something, I know that it's temporary until I can figure it out. And if you start to almost enjoy that process, then your whole life, you're like you said, course correcting. I know how to get out of this now. Oh, I figured my way out of this now. And you just keep building up tools that help you to always lift yourself up out of whatever it is.
There were so many moments in your career where I'm sure, especially in a male-dominated industry, that people have tried to step up to you, step on you, push you down, and you didn't succumb to it. How the hell do you not succumb to that type of pressure, especially being a female in this space?
Yeah, it was weird because I came up in a time where we were this like really big hip hop station in a time where hip hop was like thriving in New York. So it was, people were like almost, it would change somebody's life if their song got put on, and people were hungry. So I would come across some aggressive energy sometimes, but I usually try to look people in the eye and be fair and hear people out, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes people who come at you really aggressive, since they want to just be heard, they want to be seen, they feel like they're not, so they use their whatever they're, to try to either scare you or intimidate you. But sometimes you could back people up just by going, well, well, what is it? Like, what is, sometimes just like trying to get to somebody's truth helps kind of diffuse the situation.
How do you do the both? Because when you're really strong, like you strike me as a very strong-willed woman that can't be bullied or pushed around. But even you were just saying, oh, but there were moments where if someone's just like egos in the way, they're, you know, like they're bigging themselves up and they're in your face, sometimes you just need to almost have empathy for them. How do you know when to use which one?
People are just people. Sometimes people have bad behavior, but at the end of the day, it's because there's something in there that they're trying to, they want to be seen or they want to be heard or they want to vent something. And so I don't know, I feel like I've been really good at diffusing any type of negative energy or just, like you said, like people who try to be aggressive with you or force you or bully you or things like that. I really have this theory, and I've had it my whole life. I come from a family where there are alcoholics in my family, gambling addicts, you know, and I think it's one of the reasons why I've been good at what I do for a living is because I really have empathy for that we all come from shit. We all have shit in our history, in our backgrounds that make us who we are, even the bad stuff about us. The bad stuff usually about us is because something either happened to us or something happened to our parents that has been fed down to us. I really have empathy for people's conditions and like the things that make us quote unquote bad or have bad behavior. You know, my father was a drug addict who I haven't seen since I was 10 years old. And I never really had anger towards him. I always felt like, well, he had a drug problem. I always have operated with that of seeing people like, oh, they're that way because this happened to them. I can sit across from people and who have done terrible things, and I'm still interested in your story. You know, I hate cancel culture for that. There's some people I want to talk to that have been canceled because I feel like we can learn from every single human that's walking the earth. From somebody who's sitting on death row for murder to everyone, like everyone, the worst of people, there's something to learn from. And so I think when you look at human beings like that, it gives you a different type of connection. And I think even people respond to you differently because they feel that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you sit across from somebody who's been abused or just broke, hungry, starving, beat up, trauma, and you treat them with respect and you hear their story, usually some of their behavior is because of their story. It's not because they want to be that way. And so, again, I really believe that everybody is worthy of telling their story. I think people are worthy of redemption at any point. And I think that helps.
Do you give yourself that same grace?
I'm learning to as I've gotten older. I think younger me, I used to beat myself up a lot. And it's weird because there's a fine line, like what I'm talking about, like giving people grace all the time, right? As I've gotten older, I still have the same grace, but I've learned to have better boundaries because there's a fine line between giving everybody grace and letting people get away with stuff. You know what I mean? It's like a fine line. So as I've gotten older, I've learned to somewhat, because I like that about myself. I do. And I've met amazing people that some people might throw away with that. But also, you have to have boundaries because you have to protect your energy and you can't give your energy to every single person. So I've learned to like have those boundaries. And that's the way I give myself grace. Like, it's okay. You don't got to be there for everybody. You don't got to do everything for everyone. And that's okay. Like, I really have learned in this recent batch of life that I made mistakes. It's okay. You're not perfect. It's good. You're doing good, girl. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
You could have done that better, but that's all right. You'll do it better next time. And I'm also learning that the things that I need for myself, I need for myself. And if it means that somebody else is disappointed, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying?
And it's what I absolutely do. And what's crazy though is that a lot of us women, gal, we end up doing it in our adult lives, like almost, you know, in our seasoned lives. I do call it. But like in our 20s, it's almost like a lot of us, you know, and I've heard you tell stories where you just give yourself over and you don't give yourself grace and you don't do self-care and you're not thinking about yourself and it's just go, go, go. One of my favorite quotes of yours. Oh my God, I had to write it down because I laughed so loud. You said that sometimes you have to go hard until someone peels you off the floor and tells you to take a nap.
That was me. I thought that, by the way, so even this book, I wrote that book, but like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And even now I've changed so much that some things I read back from that book and I'm like, why did I tell people that? Like
But
that.
I think it's powerful.
It is, but no, not in a bad way, but I felt like in that book I was still in a phase where I was proud of myself that I worked so hard to the ground, and that I thought that hustler's mentality and that working hard meant it was a good thing. Go girl, you bust your ass, you work so hard for that. Then you get to a point now in the past few years, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's the right advice for women. And in that book, I even say, like, in your 20s, why you should work hard, and because that's how I thought that was the right way, you know what I mean? And it did serve me. I had success because of that, and I am proud that I worked really hard. But if I'm taking the whole world out of the equation and just looking at my own life and my own self and getting in my own head, I think, was that the best thing for you? Not really. You should have more balance. You should have more fun. Not that I didn't have fun. I had a great career, a lot of fun, but I worked a little too hard almost.
Do you think though that I do, but here's the problem I really have, because I was in the same situation. My health was so bad because I just was working so much, because I felt like that was almost giving me the validation that I needed for other people to see my worth. And
See, but you're doing that for other people. You're not doing that for yourself.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But here's the truth. I don't know if I'd be where I am today if I hadn't put in those hours.
It's tricky, and it's a fine line, and you have to self-correct, and you have to adjust that line. But the thing is, you have to adjust that line for you. You can't adjust that, like how you say, we work hard because we want people to respect us. We want people to feel like we deserve the wins and the things that we have. So we have to work hard to prove that we deserve it. When, like, do we have to work that hard that we're killing ourselves to deserve that? And what is it that we're craving from other people? We want to be accepted. We want to be respected. That's cool. But what do we want to feel? How do we want to feel for ourselves? What works for us in our real life? Forget about the outside life. Like, in our real life, at the end of the day, when you're home in your house, are you happy? When you're home alone, do you wake up in the morning, feel good about how your day is going to be?
Do you think that that's a different perspective on that, what fulfillment means to you as you get older? Because, like, fulfillment to me when I was younger, I think was like being the person that showed up. Like, I felt fulfilled because I was like really like I said I would do something and I would do it. Now that isn't what fulfillment means to me.
What is it for you now?
I really think for everybody, it's how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. That's it. How do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? Period.
Yes.
So now it's like you can do anything. You can decide to have a family. You can decide to go build a business. You can decide to, go golfing, right? It's like, shirt, golf is dope.
It's so dope.
But that's what fulfillment means, right? Is that when you're by yourself, do you feel good about yourself, of what you've done that day or how you've showed up?
Yeah.
And if that is your North Star, then no one can dictate what you do in life.
Yeah. Do you ever really get to that point fully, or
No.
right?
No.
It's the chase of
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
But it's interesting because I think our whole lives are I think we're always chasing something. Till the day we're gone, we are chasing something. But I think what we're chasing adjusts. Like you said, when I was starting, I was like, first of all, I was just happy to be there, but I was like, I want more of this. I want to help people tell their stories. I want to do this. I want to be the most this, and then I want to do TV, and then I want to maybe do direct films. Like, I had all these goals and dreams and things. I was always chasing the next thing, for success, for money, for respect, to inspire people. And now my chase has changed a little bit. It's shifted because it's important for me to feel good when I wake up in the morning. It's important for me to be present for my family when I need to be there. It's just, what I'm chasing is a little different. I still have a lot of goals. I'm still very competitive. I launched this podcast, and it's been really fulfilling because I'm having different level of conversation with people. And more so than that, it's how people are responding to it. And that feeds me. Like, when somebody says, man, thank you, I needed to hear this. But you have to be careful there too.
Yeah.
You have to be careful.
That's what I was going to say, because when you're chasing something, how do you know whether it's from the authentic place of this is really my purpose and I really enjoy it, versus it's the shiny object that maybe it's
over there. Everything's over there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to be really happy when I get that thing over there.
Always.
Whether it's the 1 million subscribers, when I get that, it's going to be great. When I get the whatever it is, or whatever your thing is in life, there's always something over there. So I think the key is, what I'm learning now is, it's not over there. It's like right here. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm chasing now. Mm-hmm. How do I have more of that? Because I really feel like that's where the joy is. That's where real life is. It's in the right now. And that's like what people say meditation, which I'm not good at, but that's why I've been golfing. It's the one time I go golf and I'm like, my phone's off. I'm not multitasking. I'm looking, it's beautiful outside. I'm in the grass. I'm like trying to figure something out quietly. You know, it's like being in the moment, right? And I know that sounds like super cliche, but for me, I'm just learning how important that is. It's still good to have things over there that you want to accomplish, but your whole life can't be in the thing over there. You have to, at some point, be right here and love this, and be right here and this comfy couch, and be okay just being right here, and this is enough, like right now. Because if you can't, then you're never going to wake up feeling good, because you're always looking over there. You're always trying to get to that next thing.
Do you think then it's the combination of both? The fact that you can still dream, still point, still see a vision of where you want to go, and at the same time enjoy the now? Because as you were talking, I was like, it's interesting, because I can't imagine a life where it's just one. Where like you're just always chasing, or you're just always enjoying the now.
Yeah, right. Because you still want to be motivated and have goals, and you still want to grow. And you can't grow if you're just stuck here. You're right. It has to be the balance.
Yeah.
I had no balance. I was all over there before. You can't be successful and not have some of that in you.
1,000%. And I think that for me, the joy is going from both, to like never really being one, to like, oh, well, I just want the peace, or I just want the hustle. It's like, I freaking love the hustle, but I only love it when I'm able to have a way of then me pivoting when I know that I need it. And I don't seek balance, I seek harmony. Because to me, balance is like, well, it's 50-50. It's like, no, I actually don't find joy in 50-50. I find the harmony and the joy in probably 80-20, right? Where 80, I'm just crushing my goals, because that is what gets me amped. But I do need the 20%. And I think that like in everything that you talk about, and hearing your story and how you show up every freaking day, it feels like it's the duality of both, that it's never just one. And then especially in today's society, because me and you've been around for a while, in today's society, it feels like it's very much one, right? Love yourself, go slow, you know, take care of yourself. And while I think that is super freaking important, I don't want to be blindsided and pretend the other side doesn't exist, and pretend that Angie Martinez doesn't freaking wake up every day with a fire under her ass. Like, I'm going to make this podcast.
No, I totally do. I totally do. But I only used to operate on the fire.
Exactly.
And so for me, and that's just me, I think all of us have our own individual harmony that we're trying to find, right? So for me, that was the thing. I had to like slow down a little bit. And in the slowing down, I'm finding new things to chase, even in the slowing down. So it's just our own individual balance. But I think it's a constant. We never get it right. And that's the beauty of life, right? It's like, it's a series of pivots your whole life. And if you could just like learn to enjoy the pivoting as you go, it's the best any of us could do. Because the lows happen to every single human. So it's like, okay, this is a low. And it's like almost being okay with it, because you know a high will come. And it's just like the constant of just doing that. And I think people make a mistake that when you go low, they don't see anything. They don't see the opportunity of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's interesting, I think that when they see low, it is, right? Like, how can I get up? I think because you may not see, you don't almost see what's right in front of you, because feelings feel very real.
Yeah, well, I think anybody who feels that should know that everybody feels that when you're low. It's just tell yourself the thing. When you're low, you have to tell yourself. Even if you don't believe yourself, you just find a way to tell yourself, this is just this moment. I will find my way out. I haven't found it yet. that's okay. You just haven't found it yet. The word is yet. It's not like I can't ever find it. You can. And some things take longer than others, and you're going to get frustrated and feel sad and, oh, I got to get out of this. And you can't right away, but it's just yet. You just haven't found it yet. That's the only thing. You just always got to keep going. You always got to, there's always an answer. Some answers take a month to figure out. Some answers might take a couple of years to figure out.
Yeah.
But there's a way out of everything. I believe that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then one more thing recently that I found really useful is also, because you know the phrase like this too shall pass. So it's like when you're low, reminding yourself that this too shall pass is super powerful.
When you're high too.
But yes, girl, I realized that what many of us do, and me myself included, when it was at the top or the high, it now became, oh, this is baseline. So now everything should be roughly here. And as you know, this too shall pass.
Yes.
And so we end up setting ourselves up, I think, for disaster by thinking that
this
when
is
we
the
have
norm
a high,
up here. This is the norm. No, ma'am, you're just having an amazing day. But also when you when you realize that this too shall pass, that this too high shall pass, it makes you appreciate the high more. Because if you just think this is the norm, you're just in it. Well, who cares? But when you're like, wow, this is an amazing day. Oh my gosh, you realize because this too shall pass. Or even friendships, or even relationships. Or sometimes your relationship's in a beautiful place and you have to take a moment to be like, wow, this is, we're, me and my husband were always like, sometimes I'm like, I really love you today. You have to take today, like, what do we feel today? Because tomorrow you could be on my last damn nerve. But it's the you know what I mean? It's like you have to just take the moments for as they are, because the highs won't last forever and the lows don't last forever either. Everything is temporary.
Yeah.
So like we go back to just, it's the ride. It's the ride. You have to learn to enjoy the ride.
Do you remind yourself of that in moments where maybe your ego gets a hit or is slightly dented? Because I assume you're human and you have an ego like everybody else.
Yes, I do.
Because again, I think it's a lot of us let the ego get in the way, and that is what I think ends up being either a detriment to our goals, our success, our relationships. And in your book, you tell a story of how, I think it was the MTV Awards for Ladies' Night, which, by the way, is of course one of my favorite songs on the freaking planet, and everyone watching, like, also 1,000%. I freaking love that song so much. And so, the song is a smash hit.
Yeah.
Everyone's freaking playing it. You get a nomination. You go to the MTV Awards. You've got like freaking Little Kim. You've got Left Eye. I mean, Missy Elliott, like the bomb.
Yes, and I'm the baby on the like I'd never done anything like this. It was a foreign land to me. Yeah.
And you say, like, you turn up and everyone's got like makeup artists and hairstylists, and like you don't even have shoes.
I have nothing.
What up, homie? I got something free and new to share with you right now. How often are you visited by that negative voice in your head telling you that you're not smart enough, that you're not good enough, experienced enough, not fill in the blank? One of the most powerful things you can learn to do in life is to turn that negative voice into your bestie. And I want to teach you how to do that and so much more in my 4 Steps to Becoming Confident workshop. And guys, the most amazing thing is you can actually register for completely free for this workshop. So click the link on your screen and I'll see you on the inside. So talk to me about that, because girl, like, as much as I'm joking about it and like obviously saying like, I can imagine the freaking heartbreak in that moment for myself.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh my God, I'm here to freaking MTV Awards, I'm with my girls. And then
it feeds into, so the full story of somebody who hasn't read the book, yes. So I'm with this group of seasoned artists. I have a radio show. On Friday nights, I do a special called Ladies' Night. And I had rapped once or twice, small little things. But because I had this show called Ladies' Night, and they were doing Ladies' Night remix, they invited me on this song. But I'm not a seasoned artist. I've never been in a video. Like, I'd never been in a performance. Like, I didn't even know how to perform. But I managed to put some bars together. We did the song. It becomes this big hit. And now I'm out with these amazing, greatest female artists of all time type of level artists. Missy Elliott, Left Eye, Kim, Brad. And they, like you said, they all have glam teams and they all have, I'm just happy to be there. But my outfit is not great. I didn't know any better. I just tried to deliver. I just tried to be like, okay, I'll put these on. Somebody brought me like these horrible shoes right before we went out. I was like, okay, I put them on. I went to the thing. Um, it did kind of play into I don't belong here, or I don't deserve to. That little thing in our bodies that we feel like we're like imposter syndrome, and so it did tap at that for me a little bit, which made me a little uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. And also because I was so new, it definitely messed with my ego a little, because it made me feel like, why am I even here? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't need, And so if I look back at that moment, if I could talk to that young girl, if I could talk to myself at that person, I'd be like, you absolutely belong here. You are here for a reason. You're going to represent for somebody's going to, there's some reason you've been put here. So just own it and just deliver at full capacity. And if I'm being honest and I'm thinking about that moment, I probably didn't. I probably didn't deliver at full capacity because I let that little voice of like that imposter syndrome or that you don't belong here kick in. And that's probably a time, I don't know that anybody could ever see it or know it, but I know it. In that moment, I was scared. I was operating out of fear and out of that feeling of like, I don't really belong here. And if I were to talk to that young girl, me, talking to her, I'd tell her, no, you absolutely do. Go out there and kill it. You know what I mean? And I don't know that I necessarily had that understanding at that age, at that time, that I should have, the ego. I probably needed a little more ego at that point. I probably needed a little more confidence, a little confidence boost. But we all do that to ourselves at different points in our lives, right?
But a lot of us do it. But again, a lot of us that then becomes the narrative that we tell ourselves, that I don't deserve to be here. And it's like, in moments like that, it's beautiful that you freaking showed up, but we absolutely, there's 100 million other women right now, girl, who have a story where they let their ego or that insecurity dictate how they then show up the next time.
And it's a shame, because if I think about that moment for me, I probably was outside of my body and worried about how people were perceiving me or how I looked next to standing. If I could have just been in the moment, like we talk about being in the moment and appreciating, and I could have just had fun, I probably would have enjoyed that. And I did. I still enjoyed it. It was a great, it was a great time. We did a video. There was Queen Latifah and all TLC, all these amazing women. And we had fun and we laughed and I learned so much from them. So I had a great time, but I would have had a better time if I had to stop worrying about what was going on outside and how people were perceiving it and how it was landing, and I just went inside. You know what I mean? If I'm talking to the younger version of myself.
How did you, over time, then develop that self-esteem and realize that you're actually worth it? Because you talk about the fact that, I mean, you're freaking crushing it. You're known everywhere. Jay-Z won't do any other interview except to doing it like directly with you. Everybody that wanted to speak on their career, their hip hop, they wanted to come to you. Like, you were that person.
Well, I think, first of all, the pool at that time, and not to discredit myself, the pool was a lot smaller back then. And now everybody who has a few dollars can get a microphone and start a blog or a podcast. So there's plenty of outlets. There's plenty more spaces for people to talk to. Back then there weren't as many. And I think the reason a lot of people felt safe with me is because I built relationships with them. I think people just learned to trust me. I really tried to operate, from a place of integrity. And I think that really served me well. And also, I was lucky enough, I came of age at a time where hip hop was also coming of age in New York. So I had all of these amazing artists coming of age at the same time. So we're in the same city, we know each other, we're at the same clubs, we're hanging out, and so there's a trust. I love the culture. I don't know, I really enjoy people, like getting to know people, and especially people who are so talented and like, where does that come from? Or people who have been through a lot of stuff. Like I told you, I'm interested to kind of just get to know people, and then of a music and a culture that I'm so committed to. And at the beginning, I was just a fan. I wasn't part of the culture. I think as I've grown, I've grown into my space inside of the culture and became part of it. But when I started, I was just a fan. I was a hip hop fan. I grew up, idolizing Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in a position where I'm interviewing the next Big Daddy Kane and the next. And even Rakim himself, so I just was happy to be there. I was a fan. I respected it and the artist so much, and it just took me to. It's taken me. Hip hop has taken us this far. It's amazing.
I love that, girl, but like you're so damn humble. And
Thank you. Yeah.
as I was looking into you and researching you, I heard you say that it wasn't until you had your son though that you went in and you're like, I'm gonna ask for a pay rise.
Yeah.
And when you went in and asked and you finally were like, hang on a minute, I think I'm actually worth more than this, they end up like doubling your salary.
Yeah.
And
which goes to show how underpaid I was for so long.
So that was so powerful when I heard it, because I thought, because you had so much passion and you loved what you did.
I felt, and also because I grew up there, so they'd given me this opportunity. So I felt almost indebted to like, thank you for this break and this opportunity, for believing me and giving me this platform. But then at a point, there is a shift where it's like, okay, I've paid my dues. I've interned, I've worked 20, 40 hours, and I did it, and now I've contributed, and now I've actually helped to build this place, and now I've actually, I'm of value to you.
But wasn't it a big part?
But I had to,
because
in my
you had
head,
your son?
Yeah, for sure. When you become a mother, you
But
start
isn't that crazy?
your priorities change a bit.
In
Yeah.
the sense that we won't fight for ourselves,
I
but
know.
will easily fight for other people.
I did it too to myself.
You're like freaking Jay-Z's coming to you, TuPac's coming to you, like the biggest people on the freaking planet in hip hop.
And I'm like,
saying,
I'll take my little
"That's
salary.
my
I'm just
point.
grateful. I'm just happy to
That's
be here.
my point."
I'm
And
just
it
happy
wasn't
to
until
be
you had the damn son, girl, that you were like, maybe I should fight for my family.
Yeah. I just said this to one of my girlfriends the other day. I don't want to share her business too much, but somebody very close to me was having a lot of guilt about something that they felt like they could have done. And I asked her, she was like, I just feel I have this guilt. And she lost a family member, and she had guilt about what she thought she could have done to make it different. And I said to her, well, let me ask you a question. What would you say if your daughter came to you and said, I have this guilt because I feel like I could have done something and saved their life, or I could have done, what would you tell your daughter? If the same thing you're saying to me, if your daughter came to you and said that to you, what would you say to her? She goes, oh my God, I would tell her, of course it's not your fault. Of course, well, I said, well, why wouldn't you say that to yourself? Why wouldn't you give yourself the same love? Why wouldn't you love on yourself the same way that you would want to love on your daughter? It's like, we don't do that for ourselves, and we should. And so I tried to do that. I tried to remind myself of that in those moments. But I think as women, we're like nurturers and caretakers. We want to take care of everybody else, but it really is important for us to take care of ourselves the same way, at least equally the same. At least, even if you don't put yourself above everybody else, at least at the minimum, put yourself on the same level. At least on the same level.
Because we don't do that, yeah.
No, because we put everybody, and then like we're down here. Okay, ideally you should put yourself first. You put your seatbelt on first, ideally. But if you can't, at the minimum, woman, put yourself on the same level, at least. Don't put yourself below, because what are you saying to yourself, and what are you telling everybody else about how to treat you? So I shifted that in my life. I learned how to do that, at least, and it helps. Like, it helps to, like, when you're beating yourself up about something, to think to yourself, what would I do if somebody else came to me with the same thing? How would I treat them? And then giving yourself that same care and grace.
How much of facing death helped with that for you to take care of yourself more? And if you don't mind explaining the story.
Yeah. So yeah, it was 3 years ago. I got into a car accident, broke my back, shattered my L1.
But like your car like went up in the air, like
in the air, 20 feet down. It was weird. I had this Tesla that, if you hit the gas, it goes from like 0 to 32 in like 2 seconds. I had just gotten the car. It's my first electric car. And I was home. I was pulling into my driveway, and I went to slam on the brakes because I saw some shadow in my house. They were doing construction. So I looked away and I saw a husband's car. So I tried to hit the brakes, and I slammed on the gas. and I swerved, and the car went, and I have a garage that goes like this in my house. And it's about, goes 10, 15, I don't know, feet, 20, maybe 20 feet. Anyway, my car went in the air. I want to say 20 feet in the air, into the neighbor's yard, into the trees, and went in the air and came down.
Oh.
Yeah, my dog was in. I had my dog because I just dropped my son off at school, and my dog was in the back seat. And I just landed. I'm in the trees, and I didn't know this, but electric cars, they can't cut the doors out, so they have to cut the trees. Emergency people have to come and get the trees out. But I knew I couldn't move. My phone was there. I couldn't grab it. So I was just sitting in the car, and I just hit the horn, and the neighbors and my husband just came out the house, and it's crazy because I had just seen an interview that Kevin Hart did, because Kevin Hart also broke his back. I don't remember what he said, but there was something in it that I was holding on to. It's so funny how like conversation could change people's lives. In that moment, I'm like holding on to this thing that Kevin Hart had said about you could get back up, because he had broke his back. I knew it in the car. I knew I was broken. I knew I couldn't move. I was in so much pain, and I was got into the ambulance, and they touched my toe, and I could feel the toe. So I was like, okay, I know from everything with the movies and the TV I watched, this might be a good sign.
Good, yeah.
But you don't know if you're paralyzed. You don't know if you could stand again. You don't know. It was scary. And so, whatever, fast forward. But then after, you're in recovery and you're laying down for a while. And yeah, it pivots. It changes how you operate. It changes what you appreciate. It slows your timing down a little bit, which I needed. Like, as I told you, I was always over there chasing everything. It slowed me down. When you slow down, you're more present, right? It was a blessing for me, for sure. So if I was still living, I would be miserable if I hadn't slowed down. I might be a miserable person right now. Yeah, for sure. Because at some point, you need, like you said, that harmony. And I don't think I had it. I think I was always running, chasing. And I think the accident helped just like slow me down enough where I could have a better harmony and a better balance for myself. Because now I do. Now I'm golfing. I'm like doing things that I would have never been. I don't have time to golf. Who the hell has time to do that? Now I'm like, I make time. Now, and I hate to say this to you, but I called because we were supposed to do this in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I was like, do you mind if we do it in the morning? I would never change the time on you, but I was like, you know what? It's the only time I could go golf. I did, and I said if it wasn't okay, I would have figured it out. But I chose to I choose me a little bit more often than I used to because of that experience and being forced to slow down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and I love that. How do you hold on to the staying power? So I've heard you talk about, I remember the story that you share where you're in a fire and like, again, like that, it was, I can't remember whose house it was on fire, and you almost like, you were either going to go out the window or,
down the stairs, yeah.
Into the fire.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that really, really shook you. But the problem is that the staying power of something sometimes obviously doesn't last. And so we have these moments of hardship or struggle, and we're like, oh my God, this has taught me such a lesson.
Oh yeah, like when somebody dies, they go, life is short. And then for like 3 weeks, you're operating on life is short. Those things happen, and they don't stick.
Yes.
What up, homie? I got something free and new to share with you right now.
How often are you visited by that negative voice in your head telling you that you're not smart enough, that you're not good enough, experienced enough, not fill in the blank? One of the most powerful things you can learn to do in life is to turn that negative voice into your bestie. And I want to teach you how to do that and so much more in my 4 steps to becoming confident workshop. And guys, the most amazing thing is you can actually register for completely free for this workshop. So click the link on your screen and I'll see you on the inside.
But sometimes things happen and they stick.
Yeah.
And so I'm lucky that was one of those moments where it stuck. And maybe because it was so harsh. Mm-hmm. And I just said this recently to someone. I was like, I used to ask myself, like, because I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe that everything is made to happen to you because you need to have whatever happened to you. And in that moment, I was like, why did it have to be so harsh? God, like, whatever you're trying to tell me, did it have to be so hard? This was so hard. But when I think about it, it did have to be that hard because nothing else was going to slow me down. Nothing else was going to teach me to like have a better balance in life. Nothing else was going to correct my just how I operate on purpose. like I have more purpose to what I do now, nothing was going to do that to me unless it was harsh. And so it had to happen to me that way. And so, you know, I was down for a few months. It was sad. And then even after you heal physically, I had a period where I don't know how to, like those moments where you talk about you don't know how to get back up. It's okay. Like my back is healing. I'm walking, but I don't know what's over there for me. I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was still kind of on the radio, but I was just starting to get back. I just felt a little disconnected from myself in my life. And I don't know, it just slowly started coming back. It just slowly started. I started understanding that I needed to have more purpose in my work. I started to have an understanding that I don't want to compromise anything that brings me joy, makes me proud. I don't want to compromise anymore. You know how crazy that is? You know how much compromising we all do in our lives? Like, I mean, I still do, but way less.
How do you then navigate that compromise? Like when you, because I'm always about like in those moments, how do you just like not go back to old habits, right? Where you're just like, okay, I'm just going to compromise myself this one time. I'm just going to compromise.
Maybe.
Like, how do you?
Old habits creep. The little head comes up sometimes.
Yeah.
Even when you're changing your life, even when you're pivoting, it's not all or nothing. It's like the wave. It's like trauma or grief or anything like that. It's not like, oh, I'm healed from grief. I'm not healed, I'm healed, and then you're healed forever. No, somebody explained it to me. It's like a tide. So grief, trauma, change. The tide goes in, the tide goes out. The tide goes in, and slowly it moves, right? Slowly. But the water doesn't just go away. The water slowly. And so like healing, changing, pivoting, it's all that. So even me, where I feel way more rooted in these conversations I'm having in my podcast and the things I want to do in my career moving forward, I feel way more rooted in purpose. But that doesn't mean that little monster that is competitive and aggressive and chasing that thing over there doesn't pop up sometimes. It totally pops up for me. And that's okay because I use it for motivation, but I'm way more aware of it than I ever was.
How do you tame her?
Just reminding yourself, okay, what's important here? Why am I doing this? What is the just conversations with yourself, therapy.
Going back to the things that you said when you were in bed, like when you wanted to get out. So it's like, what is important to me? Like, would you repeat those things to remind yourself?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm consciously like, okay, I'm going to repeat these things, but it does echo in your head. And when you make pivots in your life and changes how you operate that work for you, and you feel the difference, it makes you not want to go back. Because I feel better like this, actually. I like this better for me. And so even when, I'm still guilty. There's days where I'm working too hard. But before I'd be working too hard and don't do anything about it. And it just was my way of being. Now I'll be like, okay, I need a day. Okay, hold on. This doesn't feel good. I'm self-correcting as I go. And so I give myself enough grace to say, that's better. You're doing better. It's not perfect, but it's better. And then this works for you better. And I think that's our lives. It's always like shifting a little bit. And none of us, and this is why I have sometimes hard times with when we watch these motivational speakers, or we're looking to these gurus or these people who have all the answers, because we're all searching for answers. We're searching for ways to live better lives. We're searching for ways to function at higher levels. We want that. But anybody to me who projects, I got this all figured out and this is it. This is how you achieve the goal. I find that is bullshit. Because 99.9% of the time, those same people, you're not doing this. You're not succeeding every day. Nobody is succeeding every day. No one. Well, I'm not. I do them pretty well. I think I'm doing better than I was 5 years ago, better than 10 years ago. But, and that's okay.
dude, that's the important shit though, right? That's the important thing. Because to your point, no one's perfect. So now if someone at home is thinking, oh, perfection exists, I'm not perfect, they are, well, I must be doing something wrong. Like that doesn't serve anyone. Versus you sitting here being so damn honest about all the ups and downs and the messes. Like someone from the outside can look at your career, easily go out and completely dismiss you.
Yeah.
Like absolutely go, well, she was lucky, well, she was at the right time, the right place. Right? Like, there could be a million reasons that they can dismiss. But the fact that you're like, no, this was messy, this was hard. Even now I have to like call myself on my own stuff. I still have a habit of going, I think that's what's important. And that's why I'm always trying to dig deeper and go, in those moments, what do you do? How do people think? Because we all, especially myself, I follow my emotion and I don't mean to, right? It just kind of and let me tell you, my emotions lead me astray.
Yeah.
And so,
I don't think, no, yes.
And so now it's just addressing, yes, your emotions lead you astray. They don't have to be, like, I don't take my emotions as fact, but sometimes I do need to just embrace my emotions and then okay, now's the moment to be on the floor, you know, like cuddle yourself, you know, hug yourself, listen to all the
Whatever
sad
you
songs.
need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other moment is get the F up because you got this.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about your story. That's what I love about you, is that you have the beauty of both. You have those two competing things that it seems like that you're always navigating. And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is that at home.
Aren't we all though?
Yes. And that's the thing, that when someone that yourself, though, that someone can look up to and go, oh my God, look at their career, look at the life.
It's so funny you say that, because sometimes people credit me, and you did this earlier in the interview, you said, because you're so humble. People credit me for being so humble. And sometimes I feel guilty accepting that, because it's not that I'm humble, it's that I'm just realistic. So if you giving me all these praise about something, I'm like, thank you, it's so nice, but like none of us are perfect. Like none of it. We're all just trying to do our best, and I do try to do my best, and I do try to operate with integrity, and I tried my best to do my best by people. Sometimes I slip, sometimes I fail, sometimes but I don't know that it's me being humble. I think it's me being realistic, because I look at it as, I take myself out of the equation, right? When somebody goes, oh my God, you did this, or I've been watching you for years, and what you're doing now, I take joy in that, because it's not from an egotistical place. It's not because I want to, because I believe all these things about myself. I take joy in that because something I did has affected this person in such a way that they want to offer that to me. And so I have my pride is in that. Does that make sense?
1,000%.
That makes sense. My pride is in like, wow, I did something good because this person feels that about me. It's not so much that I need that from me, or that I necessarily believe that about myself. I think we all are put here to share, to do our best, to and then if you actually touch people in that way, that's like a bonus.
And I think also that one more thing to add to that is because from the outside, you just see the result, right? So it's like, oh my God, I love this song. I love what you've done, right? I can talk about the results of it. But I think for yourself, right, it's like, but you're in it. You're in the everyday. You're having to face yourself. You're having to face your ego. You're having to face your own insecurities. You're having to face people pushing back. And so to you, it may not just seem like the result. It's like, oh my God, everything that I've done to do that. It was such a struggle that almost like you feel maybe bad about taking like the praise.
Yes.
Because you're like, do you know what it took me to get there?
I've never been good with praise. And I don't think it's because I'm self-doubting or anything. I think it's just because it's like, look, we're all just trying our best. I'm so happy that it meant something to someone.
Yeah. But I also get torn because you have done something that other people haven't been able to do. And I don't want to dismiss that, because in order for you to be able to do something, you've had to go through a whole load of shit.
Yeah.
You know, like in the movie Shawshank Redemption, where it's like, I crawled through a mile of shit to get to like the freedom on the other end, right? It's like, you've crawled through the mile of shit, girl. So when I look at your dream, your goal, where you are, it's because you haven't stopped. It's because you've been relentless, you've been resilient, you've picked yourself up every time that you've fallen. It's not that you haven't fallen. And I keep going back to, I think that one of the biggest detriments to us, especially as women, is a story we tell ourselves. That's it.
Yeah.
And so when I think about what story women tell themselves, what people right now may be listening, thinking about, is that whatever story they're telling, they can choose a different story. And you are a beautiful example of being able to choose a different story because you've been able to pivot, because you've been able to get yourself back up, because you've been freaking resilient. And the marathon, you running a marathon was the perfect example of this exact thing. This exact thing we're talking about. So if you don't mind talking to me about the marathon, because up until this point, everything we've discussed, I think really encompasses your mindset around you being the person that's like, I haven't run a mile, but I'm going to do a bloody marathon.
Well, goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like chasing something. And I think at a point I was chasing maybe success, maybe like respect. I was chasing that. Then I got into a phase where I was chasing to be inspirational to people. I wanted to inspire people. I had been at Hot 97 for so many years. And when I left to go to Power, all of a sudden I was flooded with people going, oh my God, I grew up listening to you. The time you did this, the time you did that. I remember when you had your baby and you were talking on the air. I was flooded with all this uplifting energy from people who had made me feel like I inspired them in some way. And so then I was like floating from that, right? And so I felt so lifted up because it was a scary time for me. So you leave a job that you're at for all these years, you leave a place that you feel like molded you, shaped you, made you who you are. Now I'm exiting because I don't want to just be that. I want to be something else. I want to be just me. I want to move around. I want to explore. So you leave the nest and you're vulnerable when you leave a nest. Anybody who's worked at a place a long time, maybe since you're a kid, scary to make a pivot like that. So I was vulnerable. And when in that vulnerable state, people had lifted me up so much and made me feel so like, you inspired me. And so now I'm like almost addicted to that, right? You become addicted to that. So then I changed jobs, and now I'm sitting at my new job after all that, the new radio station at Power. And I'm like, I got to do something to inspire people again. Now I'm addicted to that feeling of like, what am I going to do now? And so I was like, what could I do to be inspiring? And what would inspire me? And my whole life, I thought the hardest thing ever, because I hated running. My mother used to watch the marathon when I was a kid. I thought that would be if I could run a marathon, I could do anything, because I hate running. If I could do that, I could do anything. So it's always like I'm inspiring myself, but if I'm being honest, in the hopes of inspiring other people, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna run the marathon. I couldn't run to the corner store without passing out. Like I hated running. I was not in good shape. And the marathon was about 6 months away. And so I signed up. And then I publicly said I was doing it, and people started donating money. So we had raised like over $100,000. So now I'm in a position where there's money involved for the Pitching Foundation, for these kids. I had tried to train a little bit. I got injured on the training. I'm like limping. So the week before the marathon, there's this like long race. So I'm training for the 6 months. There's supposed to be a long run that you do right before the marathon. It's 18 miles. So I'm running, walking. I just have to finish it, right? So I'm trying to do the 18-mile. I hurt myself, my hip flexor. So now we're a week or two out from the marathon, and I'm limping. I'm like limping to work, and people are like, "You're gonna run a marathon? You can't even walk. What are you talking about?" So like I'm like limping, and then I just put, I'm big on the thing you tell yourself, like how I tell yourself when you're down, you just haven't figured it out yet. That's the thing I tell myself. The thing that I told myself for the marathon was, you had a baby. It hurt. But if you have a baby in your belly and has to come out, no matter how much it hurts, has to come out. There's no turning back. Can't push the baby back up. Baby has to come out, no matter how much it hurts. So I said, I'm going to use that for the marathon. Has to happen. I have to finish. There's no way out. Can't turn around. The baby has to come out. Like, this is literally the thing I told myself. So I showed up that day limping. I showed up limping to the marathon, and it took me a ridiculous amount of time to finish it. But I just went there with the intention, like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to finish it. And it was really hard. And if I'm being honest, like I beat my body up for no reason. Like I was hurt for a year after the marathon. like my hip flexor was a mess, but I did it. And it was a testament to like mental, like what you can do, what your mind can do versus what your body could do. So it was, for me, that was, I don't know, it was a big lesson for me. But I also realized, what are you doing that for? What are you trying to, you have to ask yourself those questions, like, what was you trying to prove? What was that rooted in? You looking for attention? Like, what do you, I have to ask myself those questions to make sure that I'm keeping it 100. I'm being honest with myself. Like, are you doing this because you really needed to do it? Or were you chasing, like, what were you chasing by doing that? I have to ask myself those questions when those things come up. And if I'm being honest, it was a thing for me. It was a bucket list thing I always wanted to do. I wanted to be able, I felt like if I could do that, I could do anything. But also, I think I also was chasing that feeling of being able to inspire people, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you become addicted to it, it's a little, you gotta watch that. Anything that you're addicted to, you have to watch out for.
I love that story so much because as I was listening to it, I was like, this is what makes you. Like, the no excuses.
No excuses, yeah. For sure. There's always, it's not even that there's no excuses, because you can make excuses. There's always a way. There's always a way. You can figure it out. And if you haven't figured it out, if you haven't, it's just because you haven't figured it out yet. There's always a way to figure out whatever the thing is you're trying to do or get done. Or I do believe that. I do.
But even in that situation, though, like, you could say, like, it's not good for your body. Like, you know, you're going to wreck your hip for a year. You know what? It's not an excuse. It's a valid reason. And in that moment, it is a valid reason. No one, if you were like, God, I can't freaking walk, right? And people were seeing you limp.
But where's the inspiration in that?
Right. But and here's the thing, though. Even though you said, like, you know, looking back now, what was the reason? And really dig. I think that's so beautiful, by the way, and a very powerful tool. I think that we should be asking ourselves on the daily, if not at least on the monthly. It's like, what are you doing this for? Like, to keep checking in with yourself. But there is the thing, like, and obviously I don't want to be like, oh, and you should have just injured yourself for a year. But there is something about that. There is the fact that every little thing that you think can do becomes then an echo. And so in that moment of you going, it's fine, you got a bad hip, don't do it. It then becomes an echo of how you show up again. And so again, I totally hear that you're not encouraging people to go out and injure their body for over a year, but I don't want to almost dismiss the power of that mindset.
I'm not trying to dismiss that either, but I think it's the both things at the same time.
Yeah.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with doing things because you want to inspire people. There's nothing wrong with that, but just being aware of why you're doing things is what's important.
Yes.
Don't be like, yeah, I'm just doing this because I want to. No, let's like unpack this a little bit so you can make sure you're making the right decisions and everything. And sometimes you may choose to beat yourself up because you want to inspire somebody. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just being aware of it.
Yes.
What your reasoning is for things of that. And for that moment, if I'm being honest, I think it was both. I think it was me having this bucket list but me being so high off of this moment that I had just had where I felt I had done good work and I had inspired people. Oh, what do I got to do next? How do I keep doing that? Okay, well, just calm down. Just like, you just relax. Just enjoy that you just had that moment and just coast for a little while. And I hadn't gotten there yet in my life. This today in 2023 might have said, that was great. It's okay. Like, you don't have to, just because you felt in that moment you were inspiring to somebody, you don't have to do it again this month. You can, but you don't have to. Whereas there I was, I gotta do something else. I gotta figure out a way to do the next thing, you know. So I was still in that phase of my life where I felt the need to over there. What's over there? What could I do over there?
And the awareness piece, right? You're so aware now. So
being aware of why you're doing it. Yeah. But nothing wrong with it. I don't regret it. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about how you talk to yourself really has a lot to do with the outcome of whatever the thing is you're trying to do. Because, you know, for 26.2 miles, I'm hurting half a mile in. I'm saying to myself, oh God, why did you do this? And when you get this, but I don't let that conversation go on too long.
Okay, so take me through it in real time. So your voice is coming in, you're at like the first mile.
Oh God.
Oh God, yep.
Well, first of all, no, you show up with, there is no turning back. Right? That's how I showed up. And it took me a while. I had to figure out, how am I going to get through this? Because 2 or 3 days before, I'm panicking to my friends, like, I can't, it's not possible. I was literally having a panic. I can't, physically, it's not possible. I can't do it. I can't even walk. How do I get out of this thing? I was panicking.
Okay.
And then I found, because I hadn't found it yet. And then the thing I needed to tell myself, which I found, was, okay, you had a baby. It hurt. There's no turning back. This is what you're going to use. This is how you're going to show up. Okay, got it. So you show up. this is the thing, this is the little conversation in my head happening. And you show up, because the conversation, like you said, in your head is so important, what we tell ourselves. So I told myself at the beginning. But then doubt creeps in, half a mile, when you're already in pain. And you're like, why did I do this? But then you get to like mile 7 and you go, you did 7 miles. You're going to finish. It's okay. It's going to hurt, but you are going to finish it. And this is what I'm telling myself on the road. I'm having these conversations. You're going to finish it. And I was talking to myself so much in my head that I had no headphones. I had no music. I had made a whole playlist in my mind. I was going to listen to music the whole way.
Being into music.
No, but I had to talk to myself so clearly for so long that I didn't even put it on. This is how the conversation in my head is going. And then at 7, I'm like, oh no, you're capable, because you've done 7 already, and you shouldn't be even to be able to do that. So the fact that you did that means, yeah, you're gonna finish it. It's gonna be fine. I'm talking to myself like a crazy person. Inside my head is a whole conversation, but literally the conversation in my head is what gets you to the finish line. Because then all of a sudden you're there, and so that was a great lesson for me in terms of like what I'm capable of, how important it is, the conversations that we have in our head, how it shifts, how it changes and shifts what the outcome of what we're trying to do is. And then for me also, it's like the why. Why are you doing that? It started to become important to me after that.
Yeah. And then going back to where we even started this interview, it's the resilience piece. It's the fact that, well, 1,000 other people, 100,000 other people, 100 million other people may stop and go, oh shit, my hip is bad. This is silly. I shouldn't be doing this to myself, right? And now I don't do it. And then the next time I find either adversity or, something that I have to actually overcome, I've already like trained myself that it's okay not to go for it. And so when I think about how to go, you just keep showing up. It's these little moments. It's the moment of the marathon where you could have quit easily and everyone would have given you a free pass. And that's the point, right?
I would have felt terrible though.
Yeah.
I would have not loved that feeling. I do have that part of me. It's very competitive. I like to win. I like to, I like a challenge, all those things. So that I don't know that if I would have given myself an out, I don't know that I would have felt good about that.
Do you think it comes down to really identifying your core values? Because I've heard you talk about the 3 core values that to you are the most important, that when you were then going to look for a partner, you also made sure that they had these
my God,
three
the
core
best
values.
it was my dating advice, right?
Yeah.
I met this guy, his name is Paul Carrick-Brunson. He's from the UK. I met him when he was still here in the US, and he was a matchmaker. And like love life. I met him at a meeting. I was meeting with somebody. He was the next meeting, and they were like, he's a matchmaker. And we just started chatting. I'm interested in people. So I started asking him a bunch of questions, and he was saying that, and at that time I was single, and he was like, well, what do you want? I was like, I don't know. I'm too busy. I don't have time. I was in that stage of my life. Oh, I'm too busy. He was like, okay. And I was like, but I would like to be in a relationship. And he was like, well, how much effort or work have you put into that? I was like, well, it should just happen. It should be natural. He's like, yeah, no, the same way you want to win at everything else in your life. If you want that, you have to actually put some thought and some, it was the first time, I don't know, anybody had said that to me. And he said, and where you should start is figuring out what your 3 core values are, and then look for that in someone else. And that's how you find a partner. He said, because sometimes, you get distracted by somebody's funny or somebody's ambitious or somebody's good looking or they got a swag or they got a and so you could be attracted to something that has nothing to do with what really matters to you, like what your core is. So if you're aware of what yours are, you might find it in a different package. It might be in a guy that you would never in a million years think. But if you see one of those 3 core values, because now you're aware of what yours are, you're more likely to even be open or receptive to that. And not just in relationship, man, woman, but just the world, like friends, people you meet by chance. Like, oh, I like her because she mimics something that matters to me. But if you don't know what your shit is, then how are you even going to attract the things in your life, relationship, friendships, anything like that? So for me, that was like, oh, that's, you learn things in life where some things, like you say, they go through you, they matter for a week. Some things stay with you. So that was one thing that stayed with me.
And when you listed those core values, because it was loyalty, honesty, and God, I believe. And when
It was family.
yeah,
It was
for
family.
the loyalty, yeah.
Yeah, my relationship with God, and honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty is really important to me.
And hearing those, I was like, it is beautiful and very interesting to see how that does echo in just other things, ways of your life as well, right? Going back to, it's not just your romantic relationship, it's the type of business that you do, the type of people that you're involved in. When that becomes, these are the three things that I am going to always protect and look for other people.
It's important to, when you're doing self checking in with yourself, like checking in with yourself, make sure why you're doing things. If you just remember what's important to you, or when you're confused about making a decision, you can go back to that. Where does that fit in? What I believe I really care about, or what I believe is most important. It helps you in decision making, because we're all presented. There's so much opportunity in the world right now, especially if you have any success in one thing. I'm sure people call you like, hey, you want to be a model, or you want to be a endorser for this, or do you want to do this convention? There's opportunities, right? But then you have to be like, what if those are in line with what I say I want my life to be and mean? And yeah, so I'm grateful for that, because it does help me navigate. Sometimes I'm like, why would I do that? It seems like a great opportunity, but is it in line with my soul and what I want to do, how I want to spend my time, and what I want my life to mean? And if the answer is no, then I don't do it. Even if people would deem that to be a great opportunity, if it doesn't serve me in a real way like that, I'm not interested in doing things like that anymore.
Yeah, and I found it really beautiful as a way of, okay, this is who you show up to be. And I thought of, like, with anyone listening, the value of actually identifying what your three core values are, so that it does help you pivot or remain in the situation, whether it's a relationship, relationship or business or friendship. And there was one other thing that I found really fascinating, that it was so beautifully articulated that I really wanted to repeat them. And it was a great guide for other people. So when you talk about boundaries, I know people turn to you a lot. You said that you've actually taught your team about boundaries, because people just step over you if you don't create those lines. And I've heard you say that the two boundaries that are very important to you. One, not to be around people who don't actually want what's best for you.
Yeah.
And then two, not being around someone who resents your drive. And I was like, wow, those are two really, like, in encompassing who you surround yourself with and then how they impact you, those I found really freaking beautiful boundaries.
Yeah. And I think I shared that because I think we, especially when I was younger, I didn't understand that all the way. Sometimes you could fall in love, or you could have friendships, or you could have people in your life that you maybe admire, maybe mentors, maybe whatever. And so you want to make people proud of you. You want to make people, or a relationship, you want to make your partner feel good. But then sometimes if that means dimming your light in any way, or if you start feeling, if something inside you wants to do that, and there are people in your life that act weird about it, you have to pay attention to that, because there's always going to be people that don't have the drive you have, or are not going in the same direction you're going. And when you're young, I would say 20s, 30, maybe young 30s, sometimes it could just shift your direction a little bit, and and it could push you in on the wrong path if you let other people's either insecurities or whatever their thing is, if you let that take you off of what is pulling in you and your heart and your goal and your whatever your direction is, that could be, it could be sad. You could be miss opportunity. It could be a big mistake in your life. And so I realized early, like, it's important for me to have people around me that lift me up, that you'll succeed better. And it makes the journey more fun. You don't want resistance at every turn from people in your lives. Like, you don't want a relationship or friendships of people who resent you trying to get over there, or trying to, whatever you're trying to do. Like, you need people to lift you up and support you, and life will be so much better. I really am blessed in that way. I have I have great friends, and I have a partner who he loves when I win. He's like my biggest supporter and fan, so that's great. My mom is super supportive, and I don't really have any of those people in my life anymore that kind of would resent anything I do. Right?
I think that's so powerful because, I think it was Tony Robbins that first came up with the notion that you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
I love that.
And if we take that as truth, thinking through who do you surround yourself with and how do you somehow maybe navigate, are these the right people? Because to your point that you actually said earlier, it's like you can be, bedazzled by their personality or their charisma, but actually it's not good for you or for your future or for, what you want. So when I heard that those were the 2 boundaries, I was like, they're so on point because especially us women, we inevitably, being people pleasers, you said that earlier as well, will accidentally dim our light to try and please somebody else and not realize, and then maybe blink, and we've been dimming our light for 5, 6, 7 years and we haven't been living the life we want. So having these kind of clear boundaries of who you let own your circle, really freaking powerful.
It can make a huge difference in your whole life experience, and you just change your life, literally. It's like, we have this one experience in this earth, in this world. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's another life, whatever. But in this lifetime, this is it. This is what we got. And whatever you need to do, or whatever is going to make you happy, or whatever is going to fill your soul, you have to be able to do that. And you want to try to make that as easy as possible. And so take out anything that is, it doesn't mean you don't care about people. It doesn't mean you don't offer a hand when you have a hand to offer. It doesn't mean you don't take time to maybe help somebody with a problem if you have the time and you're willing to, but you can't let other people just hold you down to that you can't fly for yourself. You have to be able to fly. And sometimes that means shaking off things that weigh you down.
Hell yeah, girl. So where can people follow you, all the amazing things you're doing, and continue to see you fly?
That's so sweet. The podcast is doing really well. I'm so proud of it. Angie Martinez, IRL. Just, you can find me.
All the things, yeah.
You can find me.
Yeah. Guys, you've got to go check out this woman, and her podcast is so epic. But her as an individual, what she's doing, how she shows up every freaking day is so incredibly mind-blowing. So please go follow her, find the inspiration, go and find your own inspiration, echo her message. And until next time, guys, be the hero of your own life. Peace. Homie, if you want to learn how to never be pushed around again, click here right now.
Hey, I was like, over here. I'm like, you're busy, but so are we. And if you don't want to hear what we have to say, then that's cool. Let's go on with our day. And it was like a movie scene, from The Godfather, where the chair slowly